Oh, it's John Heaton here in lovely sunny Greece, and today I'm going to do a review of this Rolling Stones album from 1980, Emotional Rescue. It's the follow-up to Some Girls, and a few commentators and some fans said it was a disappointment after Some Girls. To some extent that's true, because Some Girls has set such a high standard, but this album is pretty much overlooked unfairly, because it's got some very interesting points of its own to make, and it's quite unique in Rolling Stones' catalogue in my opinion. So, bit of background: it was recorded in Paris, Pat Marconi Studios, and also in Compass Point Studios in Nassau, Bahamas. And this interesting these photographs of the band, we can hardly recognise them actually, is part of a series of photos called the Anthropometric Man series by Roy Adzak, who I think was exhibiting these photos in Paris at the time or something. And well, as I say, they're hardly recognisable. This figure here with the beard is actually Mick Jagger, and you can just about recognise Charlie here or there, but and Ronnie here with the bleached hair, but I think deliberately disguised, and a good concept. And the reason I rebought this album recently is because I'd lost the poster, and I'm not going to open this up, but this is a huge poster containing a lot of the pictures from the series, which featured on the cover, but these are in colour. So very nice to have the poster again after all these years. And yeah, so let's go through the tracks. Opens with Dance, which is a kind of disco number, and it's pretty decent. A nice groove. By the way, the musicians on this album, apart from the main band, Ronnie Wood obviously a full-time member of the band by this stage, and had been on Some Girls as well, and played on Black and Blue, so he was pretty much entrenched in the lineup, of course, by this stage. And then as well as Bill and Charlie, you've got Sugar Blue on harmonica, you've got Nicky Hopkins on piano, of course Bobby Keys is playing sax, who played on most of the Stones albums, Ian Stewart, sometimes called the Fifth Stone, on piano, and I noticed that Arif Mardin is involved here, and it says directed by Arif Mardin. Arif Mardin is, for those of you who don't know, a famous disco producer, or mainly disco producer, and he'd actually produced a couple of albums for Ringo in the mid-70s, Rotogravure and Ringo the Fourth. So I was interested to see that. Produced by the Glimmer Twins, Mick and Keith, this album, and pretty well produced, I think it's fair to say. They get quite a nice sound on this album, and Dance is a good opening number, if not fantastic. Summer Romance was a leftover from the Some Girls session, and perhaps sounds a bit like that. It's not the best number on the album. Send It To Me as a kind of reggae track with vaguely amusing lyrics, but nothing to write home about, pun not intended. The first real standout of the album, and this is a brilliant track, Let Me Go, a nice rocker, and in the good Stones tradition, brilliant track, I love it. And then Indian Girl is a lovely ballad to end side one, and just a ballad in the great Stones tradition. Only the Stones can do ballads like this, I think, and Mick sings it beautifully, and just a great groove. And I've no idea what the inspiration behind this particular song was, if it was anyone in particular or not, but it's a great closer to side one. Then we get Where the Boys Go, opening side two, which is a kind of up-tempo number. It's okay, it's a little bit kind of uninteresting lyrically. Where the Boys Go on a Saturday night, that kind of thing. It's okay. But then the album returns to form with Down in the Hole, which is a brilliant blues number, very well played by the band and very well sung by Mick, and this is an overlooked gem in the Stones catalogue in my opinion. Really great track. And then Emotional Rescue, was the big single from this album and did very well. And as with Miss You from the previous album, shows that the Stones could conquer the disco sound, and they did so very successfully with this, and there's a good video to go with this, and a nice mixture of mixed falsetto voice and his normal voice. And I was talking to my sister earlier, and she reckons it's the sexiest song that Mick ever put down on record, so that's a viewpoint from her. Very good single, and there's a 12-inch version of this as well, which I used to have, or I heard a couple of times. It's interesting. She's So Cold was another single, and there's a good video for this, and you know, very well played, nice groove, maybe a little bit formulaic in the sound, but none the worse for that. I love it. And All About You is the closer to the album, and it's an absolute classic from Keith. It's one of Keith's very best songs, along with Before They Make Me Run and Slipping Away from Steel Wheels. All About You, a heartbreaking song about a broken relationship. Again, not quite sure what he's singing about, but very emotionally sung by Keith and well delivered. So this album came out in 1980, did well, a little bit paled in comparison to Some Girls, but then they would go on and do To You, which was of a similar standard in 81, and for me that's To You and this one, their last great albums from this band, although they've done some good stuff since, of course, but on a consistent basis I think this album is one of their last great efforts, and very nice to have, and interesting artwork here, and thank you for watching. See you next time.